Welcome, strugglers. Take a deep breath. Can you hear that? It's not the roar of the beast. It's not the clanging of the dragon slayer against the iron will of causality. It's the wind, a soft, gentle, terrifying breeze. Today, we are going to walk down a path that Kentaro Miura hinted at, but thankfully, mercifully, never fully took. But as explorers of the abyss, we have to look into the shadows of what could have been to truly understand the brilliance of what is. Today, we are opening the book of the damned to a chapter titled The Silence of the Wind. We are asking the impossible question. What if Serpico had actually succeeded? What if the fox killed the dog? I want you to transport your mind back to the Holy See Alliance Arc, specifically to the city of Vritanus. Volume 30. This is peak Miura, where the art is so detailed it feels like the ink is still wet, bleeding darkness onto your fingers. The ballroom is chaotic, the Kushan beasts are invading, but in the depths of the structure, in that room filled with stone pillars, a private tragedy is unfolding. We have Guts, the Black Swordsman, the embodiment of human struggle, battered, wearing the berserker armor, but trying desperately not to let the beast consume him. And we have Serpico. Now, pause. Look at Serpico. Really look at him. Miura draws him with these narrow, fox-like eyes, usually closed, hiding a lifetime of repressed trauma. He is the antithesis of Guts. Guts is loud, heavy, jagged. He is a blunt force object in a world of glass. Serpico is wind, precision, avoidance, and cold calculation. He doesn't fight to win. He fights to remove threats. And in his mind, Guts is the ultimate threat to the one thing he loves. Farnese. Serpico believes that Guts is a fire. And what happens when a moth gets too close to a fire? It burns. Serpico has spent his entire life cleaning up messes, hiding in the shadows, protecting Farnese from the world and from herself. He sees the berserker armor not as a power-up, but as a death sentence that will drag Farnese into the abyss along with Guts. So, he makes a choice born of love, fear, and a terrifying amount of rationality. He decides to kill the one man who can save the world, to save one woman. In our timeline, the canon timeline, Guts survives this duel because he is willing to destroy the environment. He shatters the pillars, realizing that Serpico is using them to block the Dragon Slayer's massive swing arc. It's a moment of tactical genius from Guts. But let's tweak the variables. Just a fraction. Let's say the berserker armor's influence is slightly heavier that day. Let's say Guts' vision blurs for a microsecond, the odd in his body rebelling just a beat too long. The scene begins. The air in the room is heavy. Serpico has the sylph sword and the sylph hood. He is faster than the eye can follow. He isn't moving. He is flowing. He weaves between the pillars, using the stone as a shield. Guts swings, clang. The massive slab of iron bites into a pillar, sending stone chips flying like shrapnel. In canon, Guts rips the sword through. But in this nightmare, the sword sticks. Just for a heartbeat, the friction of the stone holds the iron. And in that heartbeat, Serpico moves. It wouldn't be a messy kill. Miura wouldn't draw it as a gore-fest. It would be elegant, horrifyingly elegant. A whisper of wind. Serpico glides past Guts' flank, the sylph wind accelerating his movement to a blur. The wind blade doesn't need to hack, it just needs to sever. He aims for the gap in the armor, the exposed neck, or perhaps the eye slit of the helmet where the human flesh is still vulnerable. Swish. No scream, no roar, just the sound of air being displaced. Guts' hand releases the handle of the Dragon Slayer. The sword, that massive heap of raw iron that has tasted the blood of apostles and the dreams of 100 years, doesn't fall. It stays wedged in the stone pillar, a tombstone for a warrior who never stopped moving until now. Guts's body, heavy with muscle and scars, crumples. It hits the floor with a thud that shakes the room. The silence that follows is heavier than the sword. Serpico lands softly, his cape settling around him like a shroud. He doesn't cheer. He doesn't smile. He opens his eyes, those rare, piercing eyes, and looks at what he has done. The wind in the room dies down. The sylph spirits quiet. This is the moment where the genre of berserk shifts. We move from dark fantasy to pure, unadulterated Greek tragedy. Because here is the crushing reality. Serpico thinks he has won. He thinks he has cut the bad influence out of Farnese's life. He stands there, breathing hard, perhaps wiping a speck of blood from his cheek, waiting for the relief to wash over him. But it doesn't come. Instead, the brand of sacrifice on Guts's neck, now still, stops bleeding. Or maybe it bleeds harder, sensing the end of the vessel. Let's explore the immediate psychological fallout. This is where Miura's genius for character interaction would shine. The door bursts open. Shirka enters first. She is sensitive to odd. She would feel Guts's life force vanish like a candle snuffed out in a hurricane. Can you imagine the panel? A close-up on Shirka's face. Not tears initially, just shock. Absolute hollow shock. Her connection to the berserker armor, the spectral chain she uses to pull Guts back from the abyss, snaps. She falls to her knees, clutching her staff, the weight of the realization crushing her small frame. She didn't just lose a protector, she lost her anchor. Then, Farnese, the woman Serpico did this for. She walks in, seeing her brother figure standing over the corpse of her teacher, her inspiration, her hero. Serpico turns to her, expecting, what? Gratitude? Understanding? He opens his mouth to say, "It's over, Lady Farnese. You're safe now." But he sees her eyes, and in her eyes, he doesn't see safety. He sees the reflection of a monster. Not Guts. Him. This is the first layer of the tragedy. Serpico destroyed Guts to save Farnese from the darkness, but by killing Guts, he becomes the source of the ultimate darkness for her. He validates her worst fears, that the world is a cruel, arbitrary place where strength is punished, and cowardice, or calculated fear, is rewarded. Farnese's development, her journey from a pyromaniac fanatic to a magic user seeking to understand the world, was fueled by Guts's struggle. Watching Guts fight against destiny gave her permission to change. With him dead by Serpico's hand, that permission is revoked. Why? She would whisper. A simple bubble of text, small and trembling in a vast white space. And Serpico, the master tactician, the man who can calculate wind vectors and sword trajectories, has no answer. The logic falls apart. The math doesn't work. He realizes with a creeping coldness in his gut that he didn't kill Guts for Farnese. He killed Guts for himself. He killed him because Guts made him feel inadequate. Guts made him feel like his method of survival by submission was wrong. Guts was living proof that you could fight the storm, while Serpico had spent his life bending to it. Then we have the others. Isidro, the young thief who wanted to be the strongest swordsman. He sees the strongest swordsman lying dead, not by a monster, but by a friend. His worldview shatters. The lesson he learns isn't struggle and you will succeed. It is trust no one, and the sneaky bastard wins. His innocence, which Guts strangely protected, evaporates instantly. And Casca. Oh God, Casca. At this point in the story, she is still broken. She is the Elaine figure, but she has an animalistic instinct. She knows who keeps the nightmares away. She knows who the dog is. When she sees Guts dead, she doesn't mourn like a human. She wails like a lost child. The one scent of safety in a world of apostles is gone. She is exposed. The dynamic of the group explodes. Without Guts, the gravity is gone. Guts was the sun. They were the planets. Without the sun, they don't just stop moving. They drift into the void. Shirke would likely lash out, her magic flaring with grief and rage. Serpico might have to defend himself against the very people he thought he was saving. The safe zone he tried to create becomes a war zone. But let's zoom out. The tragedy is personal, yes, but in Berserk, the personal is always cosmic. With Guts dead, the Dragon Slayer lies dormant. The struggle ends. Causality, which Guts had been fighting with every swing of his sword, sighs in relief. The ripples in the water smooth out. The flow of karma proceeds unchecked. Think about what Guts represents. The Skull Knight calls him the struggler. He is the fish that leaps out of the river of fate. He is the anomaly. By removing the anomaly, Serpico has inadvertently aligned himself with the God Hand. He has done Femto's work for him. He has smoothed the path for Griffith. In the next few minutes of this hypothetical scenario, the Kushan invasion of Ritanis continues. But now there is no Guts to team up with Zod. There is no Guts to carve a path through the Ganishka constructs. The party is fractured. Serpico is skilled, yes. He has the Sylph. But he doesn't have the weight to hold the line against an emperor who has turned into a Shiva avatar. Without Guts, Zod likely wouldn't bother engaging with the group in a team-up capacity. He would see them as insects. He might even kill them himself just to clear the board, or simply ignore them as they get trampled by the Kushan. The miraculous survival of the party in Britannis was predicated on the chaos Guts caused. Without that chaos, they are just civilians in a war zone. Serpico would try to grab Farnese and run. That is his move. Run, hide, survive. He would grab her wrist the same way he did when they were children. "We have to go, Lady Farnese." But she wouldn't move. She would be staring at the body, staring at the Dragon Slayer. This is where the horror sets in for the audience. We realize that Guts' suffering wasn't just for him. It was a shield for everyone else. We, the readers, often feel the weight of Guts' pain and think, just let the man rest. Well, this is what rest looks like. It looks like defeat. It looks like the lights going out. As a screenwriter, if I were pacing this, I would end the chapter not on the death itself, but on the realization of the mistake. I would have Serpico look down at his hands, expecting them to feel clean, but finding them heavy. He holds the Sylph sword, but the wind has stopped. The room is dead silent. And then, a sound, not from Guts, but from the astral layer. A laugh, a low vibrating hum, because the barrier between the worlds is thin, and the creatures of the dark know that the big bad wolf is dead. The dinner bell has rung. Serpico wanted to protect Farnese from the danger that follows Guts. But he forgot that Guts was the scarecrow keeping the crows away. Now, the crows are descending. We leave the chapter there, with Serpico realizing that by killing the beast, he didn't save the beauty. He just left the door unlocked for the monsters. This is the cruelty of Berserk. Intentions don't matter. Causality doesn't care if you meant well. You swing the sword, you pay the price. And the price for killing the struggler is that you lose the struggle. You are left only with destiny. And in Berserk, destiny is a nightmare you can't wake up from. It makes you pause, doesn't it? It makes you look at your own life. How often do we try to remove the difficult, painful struggles from our lives, thinking we'll be happier? We try to cut corners, avoid the conflict, take the Serpico route of evasion and smart tactics. But sometimes the struggle is the structure. Sometimes the pain is the only thing holding the roof up. If you knock out the pillar of struggle, the whole temple comes crashing down on your head. Guts is that pillar. And Serpico just swung the sledgehammer. We are still in the stone room. The dust has settled. The silence is deafening. Guts is dead. I want you to sit with that reality for a moment longer, because the immediate aftermath isn't just about sadness. It is about the collapse of a gravity well. Guts was a singularity. He bent the world around him through sheer force of will. Now that the singularity is gone, the laws of the universe snap back into place with a violence that makes the physical act of killing him seem gentle by comparison. Let's talk about the brand of sacrifice. For years, we have watched Guts treat the brand like a nuisance, a cursed alarm clock that goes off every night. We forgot what it actually is. It is a beacon. It is a dinner bell for the abyss. While Guts was alive, his rage, his dragon slayer, and his immense life force acted as a deterrent. He was a meal that bit back. But now, he is just meat. In the minutes following Serpico's victory, the shadows in Britannis begin to lengthen. Not naturally, but supernaturally. The specters that Guts fought off every single night since the eclipse, they are here, and they are hungry. Serpico, for all his wind magic and tactical brilliance, has never fought the interstice. He has fought monsters, yes, and he has fought soldiers, but he has never stood toe-to-toe with the endless swirling malice of the vortex of souls. He looks at the body of the Black Swordsman and sees the shadows pooling around it, rising like oil. He draws the sylph sword, his instincts screaming at him that something is wrong. The wind spirits whisper to him, but they are terrified. Elemental spirits are parts of nature. The things coming for Guts are crimes against nature. Shirka is the first to break. Her mental link with Guts wasn't just telepathy, it was a lifeline. When it snaps, the backlash shatters her composure. She screams. It is a sound that tears through the aristocratic air of the ballroom above. She channels a spell, not to attack Serpico, but to protect the body. She knows what happens to branded ones when they die. Their souls are dragged to the abyss. She tries to anchor Guts' soul to save him from the vortex, but without Guts' living will to anchor her, she is swept away. She is a child, standing in front of a tsunami. Serpico watches as the little witch, the one who held the group together magically, collapses into a catatonic state, her mind lost in the astral currents she tried to navigate alone. And then there is the Kushan Emperor, Ganishka. Without Guts and Zod teaming up to create that breach in the mist, without the chaos of the berserker armor drawing attention, the dynamic of the war changes. The Kushan invasion isn't stalled by a wild beast tearing through their ranks. They advance. The Britannis ballroom becomes a slaughterhouse. Serpico grabs Farnese. He has to. His prime directive is her survival. He drags her away from Guts' body, away from the weeping Casca, away from the catatonic Shirka. He chooses. He chooses the one life he cares about and abandons the rest. This is the rational choice. This is the choice Guts never made. Guts always went back. Guts always tried to save everyone, even when it was impossible. Serpico saves only what he can carry. Imagine the image of Serpico fleeing through the burning streets of Britannis, carrying a broken Farnese, leaving Casca behind. Casca, the woman Guts endured hell to protect. Left alone in the dark, the Kushan soldiers find her, or worse, the apostles find her. It is a fate too dark even for us to dwell on, but it is the direct consequence of removing the struggler. The Elaine persona was fragile. Without her protector, she is erased. The tragedy here isn't just death. It is the total negation of hope. All that walking, all that fighting, all that suffering on the way to Elfhelm, gone, rendered meaningless in a single sword stroke. Let's fast forward. What does the world look like a year later? With Guts dead, the unexpected factor is removed from Griffith's equation. The Skull Knight loses his sword of actuation. Without the Dragon Slayer to temper events, the astral world merges with the physical world perfectly, seamlessly. Falconia is established without a hitch. It is beautiful. It is perfect. It is a shining white city where no one goes hungry and everyone is safe. And it is absolutely terrifying. Why? Because without Guts, there is no counter-narrative. There is no one to say, this is wrong. There is no one to stand outside the city walls and remind us that the light casts a shadow. Serpico and Farnese make it to Falconia. They have to. There is nowhere else to go. They become refugees in Griffith's utopia. But look at them. Farnese has regressed. She saw her hero killed by her protector. Her mind couldn't handle the contradiction. She returns to her old ways, perhaps not the pyromania, but the rigid, fearful adherence to dogma. She becomes a hollow doll, praying to the White Hawk, thanking him for safety, completely forgetting that she once learned magic. She forgets the freedom of the road. She forgets the fire. She is safe, and she is dead inside. And Serpico? He got what he wanted. He kept her safe. He is by her side, serving her tea, buttoning her coat, keeping the wind off her face. But he is haunted. Every time he closes his eyes, he feels the resistance of the Dragon Slayer against his blade. He realizes that by killing Guts, he killed the part of Farnese that was growing. He pruned the plant so hard, he cut the roots. He lives in a golden cage of his own making, a perfect servant in a perfect city, knowing that he is a coward who murdered a giant. The wind never speaks to him again. The sylphs abandon him because the wind favors the free, and Serpico has shackled himself to regret. This timeline forces us to confront a brutal truth about Berserk. Guts is not just a protagonist. He is the immune system of humanity. He is the reaction to the infection of causality. The God Hand manipulates fate, arranging events so that humans are just pawns in a grand design. Guts flips the board. He introduces chaos. He introduces the variable of human stubbornness. Without him, humanity is just cattle, well-fed, protected cattle, waiting for the slaughter. The peace of Falconia under Griffith is the peace of a farm. The sheep are safe from the wolves because the farmer protects them, but the farmer eats the sheep eventually. Guts was the wild wolf who refused to be domesticated, and in doing so, he reminded the sheep that they could be free. Now, bring it back to yourself. Why does this hypothetical scenario hurt so much? It hurts because we recognize the Serpico in us. We recognize that part of us that wants to eliminate the source of our anxiety. We want to kill the struggle. We want an easy life. We think, if I just get rid of this difficult challenge, if I just avoid this conflict, I'll be happy. Serpico thought that if he got rid of the dangerous, chaotic element, Guts, life would be stable. He was right. Life became stable, and it became meaningless. We learn that the struggle, the very thing Guts personifies, is not an obstacle to a good life. It is the substance of a good life. The friction, the pain, the resistance against the odds, that is where the growth happens. Farnese was growing because she was terrified, because she was challenged. By removing the challenge, Serpico removed her potential. How often do we do that to ourselves? We sedate our ambitions. We avoid the hard conversations. We take the safe path. And then we wonder why we feel empty. We wonder why our Falconia feels like a prison. This nightmare timeline also recontextualizes the friendship between Guts and Serpico in the canon. In the real story, they reach a truce. Serpico learns to trust Guts, not because Guts is safe, but because Guts is necessary. He realizes that you can't protect someone by hiding them from the world. You protect them by teaching them how to survive in it. Guts taught Farnese to survive. Serpico only taught her to hide. The tragedy of our what if is that Serpico acts on his protective instinct before he learns this lesson. He succeeds in his mission and fails at his life. We cut to the final shot, the dragon slayer. It is still in Fritanus, or what's left of it. Vines have grown over it. Rust is eating the iron. It is forgotten, a monument to a struggle that no one remembers. The wind blows past it, whistling through the cracks in the stone. It sounds like a sigh, the sigh of a world that accepted its chains. But then we snap back. We return to reality. The ink on the page changes. We remember that this didn't happen. Guts broke the pillar. He survived. He fought Zod. They got on the boat. They went to Elfhelm. The struggle continues. And suddenly, that struggle feels like a gift. The pain Guts endures feels like a privilege, because the alternative is this hollow silence. This exploration isn't just fan fiction, it's a mirror. It asks you, are you holding the sword, or are you hiding in the wind? Are you trying to sanitize your life of all conflict? Or are you willing to bear the weight of your own dragon slayer, because you know it's the only way to truly live? Mira showed us the darkness so we could understand the light. By looking at the darkness of a world without Guts, we see the blinding light of what he actually achieved simply by refusing to die. He didn't just save Casca. He saved the concept of free will. He saved the idea that a human being, broken and bleeding, can look at a god and say, no. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by your own struggle, the next time you feel like the armor is biting into your flesh and the bones are cracking, remember this timeline. Remember the silence of the wind, and choose the roar. Choose the clanging iron. Choose the struggle. Because as long as you are struggling, you are not owned. You are not a piece on the board. You are the hand flipping the table. Thank you for walking this dark path with me today. It was heavy, I know, but sometimes we have to look into the abyss to realize how good it feels to stand on solid ground. I'm going to go read the Fritanus arc again, and I'm going to cheer when Guts breaks that pillar. I hope you do too.